Welcome to the Inspiring Victory Show, where we help you double your business, double your impact, and change the world. And I could not be more thrilled because one of my favorite people on earth, Judy Hoberman, the extraordinary, I am sure you've already heard of her. She's really special, and she is here with us. She's been in business nearly 30 years. She started when she was 4, and she has done some amazing things. She's got a terrific podcast, The Trailblazer Chronicles. She also does fantastic masterminds. She's spoken for every big company you could possibly imagine, does all sorts of coaching, consulting, and has mastermind groups that are like having your own private board that's just helping you get where you want to go. And particularly for women, that can sometimes be hard in larger corporations where people can be overlooked. So she's on a mission, and she has a real passion to help people of all kinds, and particularly women, to excel in a world that is not always friendly to all. And thank you so much for being on the show, Judy. It's lovely to see you.
Oh, right back at you, Sarah. I have been waiting. I see it on my calendar going, okay, just another week, another day, another hour.
Me too.
So,
I'm glad to have you. Well, you've got so much experience and so much knowledge. What would you say if somebody comes up to you and is eager to learn new things? What is the number one thing that you tell them about stepping into leadership that everybody should know?
oh, there's so many things, but one of the first things I would say is you need to know your people. That is the most important thing. When you are a leader, even if you're just leading yourself, know the people around you. If you have a team, know them. Why are they there? What are they hoping to accomplish? And you be the driving force that will take them there on that journey. When I was a leader, I would always ask, tell me what you're looking for. Why are you here? No matter what they would say, I would tell them, I'm going to help you on that journey, because now I know exactly what they're looking for in their own words. And I have to say that as a leader, knowing your people is going to help you in so many different ways.
Well, that's an extraordinary way of looking at it, for sure. And most people don't. Most people
No.
don't take the time, and then they're missing out on so much potential in those people. You are also quite the selling guru. I know you started off in sales and were extremely successful there. What are some things we need to know about sales? We want to help everybody watching. If you're watching, we want to help you double your business for sure. What are some sales secrets, one or two, that we might be able to use to be more successful in our businesses?
The first thing I would say is stop selling, because this is not something that people want. They don't want you to sell to them. However, they do want to be able to do business with you, so you build a relationship. That is more important than almost anything. You'll be able to bring them into your circle and give them what they need once you start that relationship. But part of that is asking questions and listening. As a salesperson, I never, ever, 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 and I'll say one more ever, never sold anything. And yet I was the number one salesperson, the number one recruiter, you name it. I was number one because I would ask questions and then I would listen. You can ask a million questions, and if you don't listen, that's that's a shame. But I would ask a question and I would just stop and really focus and be present with them. So they knew that I was listening. And I would always, tell them, I would ask, are you okay if I take some notes? And they would say, of course. And what I'm taking notes on is exactly what they're saying in their own words, not to paraphrase it, because then you have the ability to say, okay, so when you were talking about this, and they look at you like, how do you remember that? Because I was listening. So when you're really focused, as a salesperson, you ask questions, you listen, and you build that relationship. Those are the things that I think are the most important.
And so easily overlooked, because you think it's not got to
Yeah.
be something fancy or involve AI or something. And I think people are a little burned out on all the technical stuff coming at them. And we really do crave being seen, being heard. And
Yeah.
most people don't get to talk and really be heard in their everyday life. I remember, worked with the guerrilla selling guys, Mark S.A. Smith and Orvore Wilson.
Mhm.
And in their one of the first guerrilla selling books, it talks about theraphrasing versus paraphrasing, and that there's a tremendous power in theraphrasing, which is what is their phrase. And
Right.
what I found is that I see younger salespeople and they're like, well, I paraphrase it back to them because I don't want them to think I'm, just copying. And I'm like, well, no, it shows you actually listened and you heard the real words they said. And if
Exactly.
I get a meeting planner that says, we really, really want our people inspired. If I come back and say, okay, so you really want your people motivated, they'll say, no, I want them inspired. Those two words may mean totally different things, even though they're synonyms for one another. And I think you're right. It's, do you have the ability to ask the question, hear the answer, really absorb the answer, and then feed back what you've heard in their words, because their words have power and meaning. I think when I was young, I didn't realize how important that was. And then taking those notes, because yeah, I mean, no matter how good you are at listening, a month later, are you really going to remember maybe the name of their kids, or are you going, things that make it look like you care, because hopefully you actually do. And I think people can sense when you're just parroting out questions that your sales manager or that you read in a book, they were told by somebody
Ask
else.
these questions like
Ask these
this. Yeah.
questions. Yeah, exactly. Have you ever been in a car dealership where, where you have their barrage of questions? They are not even waiting for the answer to any of them. They're just going to keep asking
Right.
you. I had a car guy come up to me one time and he's like, let me show you the engine. He opens it up, he's showing me the whole engine and everything. And finally, after about 10 minutes of being polite, I finally said, I really have to tell you that all I really wanted when I came in here was red.
Right. But they
If
never
you just
ask.
we could have bypassed the discussion of how pretty the tires were and how lovely the engine was if you just asked me, why are you here? I would like a red car, preferably a convertible,
Well, it's funny that you said that, Sarah, because I remember when I first moved to the Carolinas, this was many years ago, and I had
Right.
to get a new lease. And the salesperson said to me, he didn't ask what I wanted, he didn't care or anything. He just said, let's go write an application. I said, I would like to look at the car first. He goes, there's no reason for you to look at the car. Let's just do an application. And I said to him, you know what? I want to look at the engine and I want to kick the tires. He said, why? I said, because I'm allowed to do that before I fill out an application. And then I left and I went to a
Somebody that could do
a
a better
different
job for
dealership.
you.
But the guy
Mhm.
that came to me in the next dealership, I thought, oh my God, not again, can't do this. He said to me, tell me, he said, I know that buying a car can be really strenuous. Tell me how I can support you today, just like that. And I thought, oh my God, what is this? And I said to him, let me just tell you what happened. And he starts to laugh. He said, I have 5 sisters. I know how to talk to women, just like that. I thought,
Oh, and
okay,
people, and just humans. He knows how to
yeah,
talk to
yeah,
humans.
yeah,
How lovely. And you can sense people's intention, which is why you always have to go in with that Buddhist sense of detachment of,
yeah,
you know, if I help enough people, the right people will end up doing business with us, will be very
right.
successful, and it'll be lovely. If you have an intention of squeezing, the 5 people that you've ever met in your life into being your client,
One,
whether they want to or not, or buying your product or buying your car, yeah, you're going to have people running out of the dealership and running over to somebody else.
somebody else.
And yeah, but you can sense that intention when they say that, it's not a pickup line like in a
No,
bar.
right.
They
But you
mean
know
it.
what? We
Yeah.
call it commission breath. People will smell it, feel it, taste it when you go in,
Do. Yeah.
right? I mean, you're thinking like,
Yeah.
oh my God,
Yeah.
if I don't sell this, I can't pay my mortgage or I can't feed my kids, whatever that is. And when you go in like that in sales, people get that and they don't want to, I mean, they might want to help you, but they're not going to buy from you. And so I always tell
Right.
people just act as if these are going to be your new friends. Just have that relationship with them and calm down because it will
Mm.
happen. But if you go in like, oh my God, if you don't buy this, or my sales leader told me that I have to do this or he's going to fire me. People don't
Right.
care. Or I'm going to win an
Right.
award. No one cares.
It's not
So
about who it should be about, which is that
that's right.
person you're
Turn the
trying
light on
supposed to be
you.
trying to
That's
help. Yeah.
that's
It
right.
ain't
That's
about
right.
you, sadly.
That's right.
No, I know
Right.
it
Yeah.
stinks. I think, even if I had back in the early days when I had like $1 in our bank account for the company, I would just say to myself, okay, if I had $1 million or $10 million in the bank, how would I treat people? And I naturally care about people anyway,
Yeah.
so it wasn't too much of a stretch, but it allowed me to go, okay, I'm going to figure out what's best for you, whether that include, I'm very attached to you getting where you want to go. So tell me where you want to go, but I'm not attached to it having to be with me, with us, with
Right.
our company, I just want to know where you want to go so I can help you get there, even if it has nothing to do with me. And people would look at you like, what? And I genuinely meant it because I felt like I had millions of dollars in the bank. And,
Right.
and then you'd realize, okay, maybe not so much. But as we have grown and grown and grown, and we are doing, quite well, it does get easier to practice that detachment because you don't have to tell yourself, pretend something, that the company is flourishing. But I think even then you can get these people who are, it's never enough and they want, I think some people think that they should be able to close every single sale immediately. whether
That
it's a,
doesn't make sense.
and
Yeah.
it's not even logical, I mean,
No,
but
no.
if you, and again, especially in these long selling cycles, I had a gal who said, I talked to 14 people and nobody, I was just giving one of my double your business in 1 year less speeches. And she came out, she goes, I talked to 14 people. And she goes, and nobody bought for me. So I guess I just can't sell. And I was like, you call me back when you had 140 and then you'll have plenty of sales, but you can't literally think all 14 people are supposed to buy from you. And that makes you a good salesperson. What makes you a good salesperson is you're willing to help a lot of people who are not going to give you any money,
That's right.
or maybe a referral source for you later because you treated them well, or may
100%.
come back to you 10 or 20 years later and want to do business with you then. But I think that people get mixed messages from their sales managers or from sales books or wherever they
Yes.
are that you're
Yes.
supposed to close every single solitary deal.
And that's
And
not
and
even
it
real.
it's not real at all. It's not real at
No,
all. No, I think
no.
there's averages on that stuff. I think the average is like 2 in 10 will take an interest and 1 in 10 will buy in 18 months. I mean, and some years later, that's all averages. So yeah, I think that it's easy to get unrealistic expectations. And also it allows salespeople to avoid having to talk to more people. But if you like people and you focus on, you're there to help people, the worst thing that happens is you help somebody who it doesn't become a client, but might become a real fan. You
Well, it's
just never
interesting
know.
because I remember, like I always had a different mindset. I pretended that everybody
Mhm.
was already my friend or my client, and I would go
Yeah.
in as if. And I always
Yeah.
did that. Now, remember, I was selling insurance. And so there were people as you walk in the door, you knew you couldn't sell, but it didn't matter to me because I took the time to go through the entire presentation anyway. And
Mhm.
I remember I got more referrals from people I didn't sell to because what they told other people is she didn't push us into buying. She listened, she answered all our questions, and you need to talk to her. And my business was 100% referrals after 60 days that once I was licensed, say
Wow.
100% referral based because people would say you need to talk to her, you need to talk to her, you need to talk to her. And some
Hmm.
of them weren't good, but as a referral, that's what you're looking for anyway because they've already vetted you. And I would walk into places where somebody would already be greeting me as a friend, like I would be doing to them. So,
Right.
don't worry if somebody isn't going to buy from you immediately, because as you said, it could be a referral source. It could be, there's so many different places for this person to be a strategic partner. There could be, endless different things. But that is a secret about selling is like, stop selling like you're, tense and everything is from scarcity because it's not going to work.
Mhm.
It truly won't work. And people get
Mhm.
that.
Right. And that's why people don't want to become salespeople or
That's
don't
right.
want to sell within their own company and want to,
You're right.
they don't want to delegate sales. They want to abdicate. Just like
Yeah.
they don't even want
Yeah.
anything to do with it. But it's because they don't realize that, your best friends are going to come out of those relationships with people you were
No
talking
question.
to, those people. Yeah, I grew up quite shy and we moved a lot when I was a kid, which has come in handy as an adult because I
Yeah.
travel a lot for work, as you know, in Europe again. And I remember the way that I would go to parties and stuff, and I would be fairly shy because I was always a new kid and I didn't know anybody. And I started realizing that early on that if you treated everybody as though they were your friend, and if you acted like you were sort of host on the planet, it got much easier
Yeah.
because you could say, "Hey, have you met so and so?" "Oh, yeah, no, I just met them. Oh, let me introduce you to them." "Okay, that's great." Or, "Do you have enough to drink or have you gotten anything to eat? Did you see the buffet? It's wonderful. Come on over. Do you know the hostess? She's lovely," or "He's lovely," or whatever. And it was just made it so much easier for me. And I use the same thing when I'm going in and speaking to large organizations or organizations that I'm a little more nervous about. It's, how many people in that out of that 500 or that 1,000 or that 5,000 or 10,000 people that are there, how many can I talk to in advance so that I have some friendly faces that I'm looking at? But it takes, again, reshaping the way that you look at sales into
Right.
how many people can I make a good, solid connection with, and can I help them with what they want? Because wasn't it Zig Ziglar that is a great sales guru who used to say, if you help enough people get what they want, they
Yeah.
will in turn give you what you
You
want.
what you want.
It's
But you
just
do
not
that now,
necessarily, it's
Sarah.
not necessarily going to come to you instantaneously and directly.
No, but it
Right.
will. But you do that now because when you introduce people, it's as if you're the host of the party and you do a
Yeah.
video and you introduce people and you tell them about each other. So when I receive that, of course, I don't even think about it. I'm immediately on it. I
Get a
already
lot of
feel
referrals. That's why.
I do, but I already feel like I know those people. And so what
Oh,
happened? So then
nice.
we have this great conversation. They're on my podcast, I'm on their podcast. We, collaborate, we swap more, more relationships. And all of a sudden, these people are in your circle. And this is what I'm saying. It's
Mm.
all about relationships. When I first started selling, it was Girl Scout cookies. My mom was the cookie lady. And so I had to sell the most cookies because after all, that would be, a sin if I didn't. But here's what I learned in Girl
Tragedy.
Scout cookies. The first year I've sold, and I remember writing down what you wanted and Steve wanted and this one wanted. So when I went back next year,
Thin
I would
mints.
say, yeah, I would say, Sarah, so last year you bought 2 boxes of Thin Mints and one of Dosey Does and blah, 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 blah. Did you want the same order or did you want something different? And people would look at me. I was like 9. They'd say, how did you remember that? And that's how I remembered building that relationship was so important because I remembered certain things for people and they thought, wow, that's amazing. So we became friends. That's what you do when you create the relationships with people. You say to them, so and so, this is Judy. Judy, this is so and so. You really need to know each other. You're both great connectors, blah, 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 blah. Go for it. And that's the same thing. You build the relationships. And that's what sales is all about. Like, why would anybody
Absolutely.
go anywhere else if they knew you? They don't need to. They go to you. That's what it is.
You're for top of mind. Thank you for saying that. You do have one of the best podcasts on earth, just so we're clear. Uh, just in case anybody has not seen it yet, I appreciate that. I am so incredibly honored to have you as a part of the Inspiring Victory tribe at the Inspiring Victory Show. Please do us a favor. We really need your help. Please like, subscribe, share, write a comment. It makes a huge difference with how many people we can reach here at the Inspiring Victory Show, and it makes a big difference to me personally. I want to make sure that we're providing content to as many people as we possibly can so they can grow and succeed. So we'd love to have you continue your membership here at the Inspiring Victory Show. It's free. Helping us out costs nothing, but it makes a huge difference in how many people we can help. So double your business, double your impact, and change the world. And thank you so much for being a part of this extraordinary community. Thank you. I think sales is something that I remember I've taken a lot of sales courses, read a lot of sales books, did a lot, because I don't think it's something that you aren't born goo goo gaga. Now I know how to sell brilliantly and fabulously. But I love what you said about those connections. And I think a lot of people say relationships and it sounds like you're just all going to stand around and sing kumbaya and, be friends, and which is nice too. I mean, some of the
Yeah.
best friendships I have come from people that never bought a thing from me, but that we were connected because somebody said I could probably do business with them. But what I do find is if you have a narrow view of only talking to people because they could be a client to you, and you've probably seen this. I've seen this in networking events. I saw this one woman and she said, I have somebody I'd really like to introduce you to because I think she's got a huge network that she could, and in your industry and could probably send some business to you. And she literally said, well, yeah, but I don't know if she can buy from me right away. So I don't want to talk to her. I ended up introducing this same woman to another guy, happened to be. They got along famously. She referred over $3 million worth of business to another person who is in the same industry and the exact same job because this gal was just too short-sighted to
Yes.
see what
Yes.
the potential is. And you never know. Sometimes it's just that person that it just boosts your day. I mean, I know that if I see your face for 10 seconds, it's going to be a great day. And you'd have those days where you need those people in your
Oh,
life. And
yeah.
it's yeah, and then when you need something, are you there for them? I was at a conference one time speaking, and I met this woman who, Ann Bow, you probably know who she was.
Mhm.
She wrote a book called Is Your Net Working? And she invented the word networking back in the 70s or whatever. I always thought that was a word from like 1862. Turns out it's a relatively new word, and she invented it. So we're having this conversation, and she was one of those people that she would ask you everything about you, and finally you'd be like, well, please tell me about you. And because I was like the new kid. I was like 12 when I started. I mean, it was in my 20s, And you go to these big conferences, and you're like in the breakout of the breakout session, and in the far, far wing. And she was the headliner. She was the star. And so the fact that she was like sitting cross-legged on one of those tables that they have for the buffet that was empty. She's sitting cross-legged there, wild curly hair, and she's having this conversation with me, and all these very VIP important people, like the main stage people, are coming up to her and, hey, I want to talk to you. And she's like, yeah, just a minute, I'm talking to someone. And she made me feel like I was the most important person on the face of the
Yep.
earth. But, and I said, so you invented the word networking? And she said, yeah, networking is supposed to be a net of all your favorite people that you meet, collecting the biggest, best geniuses you know. And then anytime anybody needs whatever they do, you can connect them. When you need help or support or ideas or suggestions, you have a whole
Right.
net of people. And is that net working for you? And have you expanded it to a point where it works? And I looked at her and I went, wow, is that what networking is supposed to mean? And she says, I know it sort of becomes shove your card into everybody's hand and leave an event. She said, but that's not what you're looking for. You're looking for the geniuses. You're looking for the brilliant people. You're looking for the people who have the same level of kindness that you do. And she says, that's going to change your world. And I thought, I couldn't believe she'd taken 10 seconds with me, let alone that much time. And a couple of years later, she contracted brain cancer. She
Mm.
passed away. I had met her that one time. She spent 10 minutes with me, and I literally cried for a week.
Yeah.
You know, you just,
Because you had a
she just,
relationship with her,
she,
even 10
she made
minutes.
me 10 minutes. And so I think you don't realize how real, true kindness and believing in somebody and being there for them, how that impacts them, how that lands on other people. And I remember thinking to myself, I'm going to be Ann Both. I read everything she had done. I watched all her old speeches. And yeah, and it occurred to me that, yeah, think about it more in terms of, even with the potential clients, I'm looking to build my network. Is my net working? In the beginning, I'm networking a lot. What is your business? Who's an ideal client for you? When I find them in my networking, I'm going to give them to you. And I meant it, and I did. And then now I'm able to say, like you, we have the biggest networks in the world of really cool people we have collected, like Anbo. And, to be able to say, I have a huge network. What are you looking for in every area? How can I help you get that? Suddenly the relationship starts off on a very even footing.
Right.
And the law of reciprocity kicks in, where they say, well, what are you looking for? How can I help you? And even if, you don't have to say, do you want to buy from me? They're thinking of everyone they know that could buy from you.
Correct.
And also may say, well, we actually may need what you do too. But it's a
Right.
whole other way of looking at it and framing it. But you're the guru on such things. What else do we need to know about sales?
I would say, again, we go back to relationships, build relationships before you need them. Because in those cases, like what you're talking about, that how do I support you and everything else, that
Yeah,
is
I love
truly
that line.
important. Yeah, that's truly important. I remember my manager was expecting everybody that you went to see that you would sell. And his question was always, did you close it? Which was a yes or no answer. He did not give you that buffer to say anything. And so,
Mhm.
if I didn't sell and I said no, he would start yelling at me. And then I said, it's not even a no, but it's no. And I'm going back for the check on Wednesday. So it's that kind of a thing. But when you're trying to build a relationship with somebody, that's just the beginning. And here's the other part of that. When you do sell something to someone, that's not the end. That's the real beginning, because now it's your responsibility to make sure they got what they wanted, that they got what they expected, and that you're available, that you didn't just take money from them and disappear. Because that is the greatest trait that people think that salespeople have is, oh, they took my money and then they left. This is not the time for you to disappear or ghost somebody. This is the time to say, what I supplied you with, I am very proud of, and let me
Mm,
make sure that it's going in the right direction. So sales is, there's so
mm,
many different components of it, but it's not just getting somebody, attracting somebody, and closing somebody. Now the real work happens, because that's
mm,
where everything, your referrals will come from. That's where, if you're getting an award, those numbers count for you. But that's the real magic, is when you take care of somebody where they can say, your retention rate is so high. My retention rate was so high that people would say, are you paying people to stay with you? Like, no, you can call any one of my clients and they'll say, I do, yeah, I do what I say I'm going to do. You
right.
know,
And
one of
that's a
the,
rare thing. You think that
that's
would be
right.
an everyday thing, but that is a
And it's
bit
not.
of a rarity. I agree. That is brilliant, the way that you looked at all of that. And don't you find that when you check back in on people, how's it going? What do you think? If there's a problem and you can fix it quickly, suddenly they have even more love for you and more referrals for you. And if everything's going great, it is an excuse to say, well, what else do you need that I might be able to help you with? Or
Exactly.
who else do I know that, you might be able to get one of your referral partners in there, and then they feel like they want to do the same for you and you're all working together. But what else can I do for you? How else can I help you? What else, what other
Right.
support
And
do
you
you
don't go in
need?
with the expectation that somebody's going to give you what you're going to offer. You go in with
Right.
the offer, how do I support you? Tell me what you need. And sometimes
Yeah.
people will say to me, I don't really know this moment. Can I get back to you? I'm like, of course. But here's
Yeah.
the other thing
They're so shocked by the
that you
question, I
ask.
think.
Yeah.
The fact that you say, how can I support you? Or what can I do to support you? Or what's next for you that I might be able to help you with?
They're like, what? Yeah.
Most people, I am so surprised. Most people, if they don't know the two of us and maybe a few others, they've never heard a question like that before.
No,
Yeah.
no. But here's the other piece of that. When you want somebody, somebody says, well, who are you looking to serve and who do you need? Who do you want to meet? You have
Mm.
to be prepared for that because
Yes.
you want to make it easy. I ask people, tell me who you're looking for. And this is what I've gotten many, many times. I want a company that's doing at least 50 million. They have to have 250 employees and blah, blah, blah. And I would say, okay, well, I'm not the CFO and I'm not HR. Try again because I can't tell you what company is making this and I can't tell you how many employees. Tell me, is there an industry or is there a person? And
Hmm.
so when you make it easy, like if you said to me,
Hmm.
I'm looking for somebody that has red hair and has triplets. Okay, well, that just went from here to here. Okay, now I can see that. I have to be able to see what you're asking for. So I always tell people, have it ready for who you're looking for, because otherwise that's going to fade. People aren't going to ask you a second or third time. They're just not. They're going to say, oh,
Hmm.
okay, I'll let you know if I know anybody, any company that's that big or has that many people. They're not going to do that again. So be prepared to say, I'm looking for somebody in financial services, or I'm looking for healthcare, or I'm looking for a female executive, or I'm looking for, somebody that's going through retirement, my market are retirees, whatever that is, make it something
Hmm.
that I can say, okay, tell me more about that. Because now
Hmm.
that's more interesting to me and something that
Hmm.
I'm able to help you with. And that's going to help you as well. Yeah, it's not going to just help, it's not going to help me, it's going to help you. If you never ask me how you can support me, I'm good with that because I didn't come in with that expectation. So, and I think that's important also is not to go in with the, okay, if I ask them, they're going to ask me. Most of the time they will, but there are some that won't.
Right. And you just let that go. And they
Yeah,
may ask you that next time they see you. And they say, hey, I've never
correct.
asked you, which is because they're all excited that somebody asked them.
Yeah,
And then it occurs to them a month later, oh gosh, I really should have done that for them. And there is a fine line between going in with that Buddhist detachment of however this goes, I'm going to do my part of
right,
asking great questions, helping this person if I can,
right,
getting them where they want to go, even if that's not with us, and also knowing when it's good to ask them, is this something that you want from us? Because I
right.
think that there is a
Absolutely.
fine line between, helping and never asking, hey, you could really help me out. Who do you know who is in this demographic and this psychographic? I love people who are inspiring. I seem to surround myself with the most inspiring people on earth, you being one, obviously. And, so can you give a psychographic? Can you give a demographic size or space or industry or something along those lines that you're looking for? But yeah, there does come a time when somebody is saying yes, and you're not necessarily, this has happened to me, where you're not necessarily picking up on it. But I've learned to say, okay, what's our next step then? Or is this
Absolutely.
something you want to go forward with? Or what do you think we should do next? And you don't always have to have the answers. I think if it comes from you, it's kind of suspect. If it's coming from them, it's gospel. So I try not to assume those things. But even so, again, that Buddhist attachment of however this ends up going, it goes. If I plant enough seeds, some flowers are going to come up, but I
Right.
can't stand over 5 seeds and go, grow. I mean, that's just not really
Right. That's not real. That's
not
right.
real, and that's not
Yeah.
terribly effective. So I think it's the mastering of those graceful questions and wanting what's best for people, but also letting them know, is this something you do want in a graceful way? I really define sales in a book I wrote, the last book I wrote is sales is the graceful art of helping people get what they already want.
Right. And that's the truth. That's a
And
perfect way of saying it.
not forcing them to get
Correct.
it from you, not forcing them to want what
Yeah.
you
That's
have.
right.
It's
That's right.
it's but if you don't ask them what do you want, then you don't know what they want. What they want may be exactly what you do. Yay,
And
ta-da.
if you don't ask, the answer is always no as well. But
Which is
here's
what,
something.
yeah.
A lot of times when you're talking to somebody and you're asking questions and you're going back and forth and it sounds like it's a really good conversation, you could say something like, so how do you see us working together? Just like that. And
Nice.
and Some of my clients go, I could never ask that question. I said, just try it. Just
See what
ask the
happens.
question.
Yeah.
How do you see us working together? And she did. And she said, he listed like five different things. Okay, that's five more than you thought. But I asked the
Mhm.
question, how do you see us working together? Like most of the people say, oh my God, there's so many different ways. Okay, well, let's talk about it. And then it's a different conversation, but
Mhm.
you don't just walk in and say, hi, Sarah, I'm Judy. How do you see us working together? That's not what I'm saying. You have to build up to that. It's part of your
Mhm.
conversation, but it's not like the first thing you say. It's almost like
Well,
when
and there
people
are
say,
there are clues that come along with that. They start to
that's
say
right.
things like, "Well, we really need this, and I know you guys do that, and we really need this, and I know you guys do
Right.
that
And you got to
too." And
you have
yeah,
to listen for
yeah.
those cues.
If you're spacing out, trying to figure out what your next thing you're going to say is, which we
Yeah.
all do occasionally, and hopefully
Yeah.
not too often.
Yeah.
But if you get three or four of those clues, and you can go, "Great. Well, how do you see us working together, or what would you like that to be like?" I know not everybody's visual, so if I know somebody's really visual, I'll say, how do you see us work? I would say that. And then if I don't, then I say, what do you think that would be like? Or what would be our
Right.
next
Same
steps?
thing.
Or
Same.
whatever,
Yeah.
so you could put it in your own language, or you could put it in a language that's appropriate for the way they tend to hear, see, or feel things.
I used to train for Dale Carnegie. And when you walked in,
Oh, I
yeah,
love Dale
this
Carnegie.
was a
Yeah.
million years ago. And when you
Yeah.
walked in, you had to pick a business card out of a bowl, and that's what you were going to be the salesperson. But they made us do a skit about buying signals. And so somebody was behind on the desk, and they were the CEO, and you were the salesperson. And your job was to not hear the buying signals. That's what you had to do. So
That was
everybody's
your
watching.
job. Okay.
So everybody's watching this. So the CEO would say, after a few questions, he would say, this is exactly what my company needs. And I would say, well, let me just tell you a little bit more about what we have. And then he would say, well, how
Let me
much
show
does it
you.
cost?
Let me show you the
I'll get
engine.
you there. I'll
Let
get
me
there
show
in a
you the
minute.
engine.
Yeah. Okay. And then, so how soon can you deliver? Well, I'm not finished with my presentation yet. And so then and then there's somebody would come and they put a gag on you and like to stop talking.
Oh,
And so the point was somebody is saying to you, I want to do this, not in those words, but you have to listen. You have to listen because they're ready and you're saying, but wait, you didn't hear my presentation. I worked so hard on it. You know?
who cares?
So yeah.
Oh, that is darling. Yeah, you must have been very good at that. You're quite the performer, having
Yeah,
been on
right.
stage for many years since. Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
Oh, I just love that. I think that is super, super funny. But yeah, we've all been that person though, where I
Absolutely.
prepared so carefully, or I've got my PowerPoint
Wait, I didn't say
presentation,
that yet. Wait, give me a
or there's
minute. I
more.
didn't get to that point yet.
Yeah, take the win. They want to buy from you. They don't care about the rest of your presentation. You
Yeah.
could do that another
Yeah.
time, if ever. Oh, that's super funny. Oh, wow. You have great stories. Well, tell me about when you do I know you do these mastermind groups that are, like having peer-to-peer support and where people can feel like they have a board of advisors, a board of directors amongst them. What I like about what you're doing is that it's all people of a similar level. If they're all CEOs, that's great. If they're up and coming leaders, they're in a different group, because I
Yeah.
find that one of the challenges people have is if they're in a group as a CEO, you feel like you're having to train all of the people that started last month or something, and they aren't talking about things that necessarily would be valid to people at different levels. So tell me what those are like.
So the reason, and that's a really good point to start that with, that we make sure that these masterminds are for people of the same level because the challenges
Or
could be the same, but they're vastly different. So what this is, especially when I talk about women, because my masterminds are for women, there are
right.
for men, but we don't mix the two because the dynamics change totally. But especially for women, we face many different challenges, whether it's balancing these high pressure roles that we have, balancing your personal commitments, overcoming some of the barriers about confidence, finding a network of trusted people who truly understand what you're doing. The mastermind
Mm,
actually provides a trusted space so you can grow, so you can collaborate, so you have these lifelong connections. And it's a confidential space, so you can share, you can learn, you can grow. There's no judgment, there's no competition. And it's a carefully
nice.
selected group of women that focus on creating this environment, to creating a community. And it isn't coaching. It's really more a collaborative space where women come together as peers. And as
Hmm.
we said, it's like your own personal board of directors, and each person offers insight, offers support, offers guidance. And there's
Hmm.
continuous learning and growth. And that's the beauty of it. It's your community of strong, heart centered, tenacious, purpose driven professionals. So it's an amazing opportunity for the right women. And it's not for everybody. Not everybody wants that. But a lot of people do want this. They're trying to build a community. And I just watched something with, I think it was Mel Robbins, and she was talking about why it's so difficult for women, especially, to have friends as they get older. Because when we're younger, we're all at the same age, we're all at the same, spot in our life. We all live in the same location because that's who you grow up with. As you get older, your friends change. People are in different roles at the same age, they're in different spots. Logistically, you don't live with your best friends. So you're looking to find these communities because it gets to be lonely as you go further up the ladder. And so this is something that is made for the community that you're looking to have authentic relationships with. And the women that go through it have lifelong connections. These women become their friends and they can reach out to
Mhm.
them anytime that they want. So it's pretty amazing.
It is amazing. That's a powerful thing. Well, you and I have talked about as a CEO, the higher up you go, it is a bit lonely for
Yeah.
most CEOs because you can't say to your team, gosh, I'm worried about if we do this one big initiative, it could implode and, we could lose half our company or something like that. You don't want to be telling the folks that. You can't tell some of your friends are often your competitors. You don't want to tell them, I'm worried this might implode. That's not
Yep.
healthy. Your poor spouse doesn't want to be drowning in every little issue that you have, and it's not their job. So I think to have peers that are really focused on your success and your growth, and where you can say candidly, hey, I'm worried this might implode. Do you guys think it's going to implode? And if you've got half a dozen other women in your case or people saying to you, no, that sounds perfectly healthy, we'll help you,
Yep.
it's going to be okay. The amount of pressure that the average CEO is dealing with is far more than I think I ever realized until I was one, or that people who aren't one also can see. And so I like the fact that you're unpacking what's going on with each individual and allowing them to learn how to coach themselves and learn how to coach each other, which is a skill they can also use with their team members and
Absolutely.
staff back at where they are. So I love the concept. That is very, very, very helpful. And you're right. There are slightly different challenges being a female CEO than being a male CEO.
Absolutely.
Um, there
The
really
men
are.
still have
You get
challenges that,
yeah.
yeah.
So,
But
what's one of the most interesting projects you've gotten to consult on? Because I know you do a lot of coaching and consulting as well.
let's see. I actually just did a consulting gig and it was all about sales, which is interesting
Hmm.
because most of
Do
their
you do it?
people are not salespeople. And we did such an amazing program. I mean, really amazing. 100% were engaged. 100% showed up every day for the training.
Wow,
100% did the capstone project at the end. 100%. That's a lot. That's a
that's
lot.
amazing.
And what we did was
Congratulations.
we made it, thank you. We made like, these amazing exercises that they did and real life things where you had them open the phone and they would look at a client and I would say, okay, look at Google them, just Google them and find something you didn't know about them. And all of a sudden, people were saying, "Oh, I could have been talking about this, or I could, just about relationships." So there were so many good things about it, and I can't even say enough. It was so rewarding, and it turned out that everybody had the same opinion about it because we had the some of the people that were way up sit through the entire training with us and
Mhm.
participate in the entire training with us. And so that spoke volumes for everybody that was there. So it was great. It was so much fun.
I think anything you do tends to be so much fun for sure. All right. I know that you have one of the most popular free downloads of anybody I know, and you have said you would make it free for anybody watching the Inspiring Victory show. Thank you, thank you, thank you, because
I
it's not
will.
always available. I know it's
Yes.
not always available, and you're going to make it available, but I loved it. So, what is your download that people can get a hold of and also have access to maybe connecting with you if they need to?
Yeah. So it's on my website, which is sellinginaskirt.com and then / resources. And what it is, it's the work life harmony planner. And the reason I say harmony is because work life balance is not real, it's a myth. And so there's so many different exercises for you to do. This is your own personal journey. And it gives you lots of room to explore and be more self aware of the things that are going on in your life, personally and professionally. The women that have used it, the men that have used it have said, oh my goodness, I can't even believe what I didn't know about myself. So it is free. And it is on my website, sellinginaskirt.com/resources. And just go and get it, really.
And it's free. You
It's
can't beat
free.
that. It's
It's
free.
free.
And then if you want to talk more with our lovely Judy Hoberman, best way to reach you would be, it'll be in the notes too, don't worry.
Yeah, it'd be
Yeah.
LinkedIn. It's Judy Hoberman. My email is also judy@sellinginaskirt.com. You can find me either way,
Easy.
Selling in a Skirt or Judy Hoberman.
On LinkedIn. Easy,
Yep.
easy. And you can follow her terrific podcast as well. Do you have any advice for those up and coming leaders or up and coming salespeople that are in those early stages that are so challenging? Any last bit of advice for those people who are
Yeah.
getting started?
I would say, remember your why. Why are you doing this? Why do you want to do this? And always hold on to the why, because that why is going to be very important to you when things are not as good as you expected or even better than you expected. Don't forget why you're doing something. That was always my big question for anybody that wanted to go into leadership. Why? And I would make them write it down and put it somewhere where they could look at it when things were not as great. And so, really, really, really identify your why, don't forget your why, and have it handy so you can always refer to it.
That's beautiful. Thank you so
Thank you.
much, Judy. Always nice to see you. You know, I'm a huge fan and I
Right
adore
back
you.
at you.
Thank you so much. And thank you for watching the Inspiring Victory Show. We hope and pray that you'll be able to now double your business, double your impact, and change the world, all because of this one conversation, I'm sure. But meanwhile, glad to have you as always. We appreciate you liking, sharing, subscribing, checking out the podcast of some of our guests. Honored to have you here. Honored to have you here as well, Judy. You know I adore you. Have yourself a great week. And thank you for being a part of the tribe at the Inspiring Victory Show.